Welcome to the KMBest podcast. No cold open this time. We're just going to talk about new cards. There are 5 new cards releasing next month. It's the new X-Men season. For those who are fans of KMBest comic books, I actually have read the entirety of Grant Morrison's new X-Men. One of the few comic books I actually legitimately remember from when I was younger. I randomly had an omnibus of it. I went back and reread it. Let's talk about the actual cards, though, and we are going to start with Esme Cuckoo, which I am almost certainly mispronouncing. It could be Cuckoo, it could probably be anything, and I would still probably get it wrong.
I just thought in my head that it was like cuckoo because that makes a little bit more sense, and cuckoo sounds funny. But
It's the new Kanye
phonetically,
West album.
that's true. Anyway, Esme is a 3/4 season pass card. On reveal, copy a card from your deck into your hand, set its cost to 3, power to 4.
This card's really interesting because I feel extremely confident that if this card said 3/5, it would be like a copycat level playable everywhere card. Like, if this was a 3/5, even if it's set to like 3/3, it would just be like, I'm positive this is good. I am 100% sure this is a good thing to be doing. At 3/4, I feel like the fact that I feel that way about the 3/5 version must mean that the 3/4 version is like at least pretty good, right?
I was gonna say I sort of think we're there on the 3/4 version. Like, there are definitely some cards, maybe a lot of cards, where I'm sure the original version is better than the 3/4 copy you get. But with any given deck that you have, there are going to be some massive power spikes with a card like this, where it's like, oh, you get a 3-cost Iron Man or Sarah or whatever, or even setting a thing's power to 4 could be a big upside, right?
Brood.
So, not bad. And then, hey, I don't know how often you've done this or wanted to do this, but then you could draw your normal brood later. 2 broods. Wow.
I mean, we can maybe do that with Absorbing Man, but this way the brood costs 3. I mean, I don't know. Like, this card is... There's Surfer that makes sense for it. There's Victoria Hand, maybe Iron Man stuff that makes sense for it. There's Mr. Negative that makes sense for it. Weirdly, the Surfer of those feels like it's going to be the most consistent home in the sense that, like, there are some really good hits, Galacta, stuff like that, just like cards you care about. But also, it won't be super vulnerable to getting Mobiused, where I think anyone trying to high roll Esme might be vulnerable to getting Mobiused.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I don't know how much Mobius is going to tick up as a response to a lot of decks playing this one card, right? Like, ideally, they would have something else going on that Mobius cares about, whether it be Sarah or they are playing negative alongside this or something, at which point, hell yeah, let's go.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it is that, like, ongoing Thanos is already, like, to me, the best deck in the game, and it plays Mobius, or at least very easily can. So it's like, how good can this card possibly be when there's a deck that good that gets to have the inherent counterplay potential?
Well, if you are playing a deck that takes good advantage of this, and you played on 3 and they played Mobius on 3, you just don't play your copy of the card, presumably. And
Yeah.
I feel like you've won that exchange by, I would say quite a bit, but it's literally 1 power. That's all you've won it by.
It is worth talking about how valuable drawing a card is. Because I think if you came from another card game, you could be very forgiven for doing what we did the first time we saw Sentinel and being like, oh my god, this card says draw a card, it must be busted.
In fairness, Sentinel was busted! It was!
Okay. That was more, like, if Sentinel was a 2/2, it probably wouldn't have been busted, and I feel like 2/2 is the right comp for 3/4 if you're gonna be comparing it to 3/5s and above.
Yeah, it's like a 2.25 or something. But yeah, Sentinel was sick. A lot of that was certainly shallow card pool and lower power level at the early series stuff or whatever, but there was some amount of that going on where, you have Bishop, so you have this thing that wants you to keep playing a bunch of cards, and maybe if you were lucky, you had Devil Dinosaur or something, so you wanted a full hand, right? Like there were actually a lot of synergies with it, and it was sick. And it's not like Esme doesn't have those synergies, right? Like you do.
Yeah. I think that the thing that sticks out about this card is typically what card draw is good for in Marvel Snap is making sure that your plays are optimal each turn. Like, it fills up your curve. It allows you to choose the best option as you navigate through the game. Your late game turns, you have a plethora of different options that you can choose from. It's a vehicle for options rather than a vehicle for utilizing one-for-one trading in the way that it would be in like Magic or something like that, because we just don't really have that. And I think that Esme might provide that, but I do kind of wonder about situations where like she's explicitly not providing that because she copies a card and then you draw that card and you're just like, wow, I didn't even gain an option from this.
Yeah. The upside to me, though, is that if you are playing a deck with Wiccan and it is turn 3 and you have not drawn Wiccan yet, this gives you another shot at it. And I think that that sort of thing is massive. And what you mentioned about Galacta is pretty huge too, especially when you take into consideration like, oh, well, now if you have a 1 cost to go with it, you're actually getting a better Galacta out of the deal, right? So I like the idea of using Esme both as a way to just power spike in terms of hitting your Iron Man or your Gore or whatever, hoping that works out, or just more consistently having things like Wicket, your powerful cards on curve.
Yeah, the consistency engine aspect is the one that I think is the most appealing to me. I think people will start with the Gore Iron Man stuff, get Mobius out of it, and then be like, all right, we can't do this. And then we'll get to her as a consistency engine, so you always get your important stuff. And that is, I think, where she likely ends up. What do you think about the idea of, she's a clone of White Queen, if I believe, and her ability is definitely evocative of it. Her stat line is definitely evocative of it. What do you think about just sort of almost explicitly being like, we're going to make a power creep version of a Series 1 card?
It's not necessarily power crept. I don't know. This to me, power creep is along the same lines as saying, oh, this is strictly better. And that's certainly not the case where, I mean, especially White Queen is a lower series card, right? And you could do things like use White Queen to steal your opponent's powerful card that you literally don't own. Like it's not in your collection, right? And there is a lot of that experience early on. Whereas I guess Esme is constricted by the things that you own, but I don't know. Yeah, there's presumably Esme is just going to be better in general because you're getting a copy of a card that you chose to put in your deck. And I would hope that a card that you chose to put in your deck is going to end up being stronger than getting one of your opponent's random cards, right? So in general, I think it is a stronger card. I think it is safe to say that. And I mean, what are you going to do over enough time? You're going to have to do power creep or maybe slightly better in most cases, occasionally strictly better versions of cards in some cases, right? So I don't know. This is not offensive to me or anything. It's also a season pass, right? So this is the thing that you have to pay for versus a thing they give you for free.
I do think that dynamic you brought up is something I hadn't thought about, though, where it's like this card gets better the more cards you own. Like, Esme is better. You provide her options by owning more cards. And when you don't own a lot of cards, she is going to be worse for you. That's really fascinating because like it's almost like the reverse of a high Evo dynamic, where high Evo is like when you don't own a lot of cards, this guy is goated, and the more cards you get, the worse he gets because he gets sort of outpowered. This is the exact opposite. That's a dynamic I honestly hadn't considered.
It's interesting because in a lot of cases, the season pass card is a thing where even if you're a new player, you're coming in or a returning player, but your collection is not huge, you can get the season pass card. And certainly I think this was maybe more prominent during like Agent Venom when that was a thing where it was like, well, now you just have a busted deck with all early series cards, right? But even just getting something like Sam, Iron Patriot, Galacta, whatever, it's like, well, you have a very good linchpin and a very powerful piece of cardboard to play with, where if you're playing against people with like similar collection levels who have not bought the season pass, you're in a pretty good spot. But this is maybe a pretty bad season pass card to be a new player on, aside from the fact that when you get a new card, it feels super meaningful, and it's kind of like doubled with this once it's in your collection.
Yeah, also new players still have access to Iron Man, right? Like, so
Yeah.
that you
How
just
bad can it be?
be the terror of 100 collection level once you get this card, and suddenly you're playing beefed up Iron Man and they're just sad.
Yeah, but imagine you're a new player and you're like, okay, I'm doing this and Iron Man, and then you at some point get Wiccan, and it's like, holy crap, that is like a massive power spike. Because even if you don't have, I don't know, like Kitty Pryde or whatever, you just play a Quicksilver version, you could find something.
What do you think the chances are that this ends up in the copycat tier of 3 drops, where it's just like, it's just good?
I think it is just good, but it's not good with literally every card. I don't think that you can just slot this into every single deck and expect it to be great. But I think if you take any normal deck and have like 2 cards that are specifically considered because they work well with this, then you're kind of cooking. Yeah, but there are plenty of decks out there where it's like even a 3/4, if it was like draw a card. It's like I wasn't planning on using all my cards anyway, so why would I care about this?
Yeah, I mean, I do think this is pretty often 3/4 draw a card and sometimes upgrade the card, and I think that is worth considering alongside Copycat and Red Guardian. But, like, if you made me choose, I would guess that those two end up being more generically applicable just because of their immense versatility.
Yeah, generically, I think so for sure, but it is possible that Esme is more popular overall just because she has like a very powerful deck that she shows up in, or like 1 or 2 powerful decks. I could totally see that world too.
What do you think the chances are that she just totally whiffs? That it's just, like, not a serious consideration?
Highly doubt it, just because any deck that is playing Wiccan, I think, will probably want to play this card.
I think that's interesting because, like, the dominant Wiccan deck right now is Thanos, which is probably not a
It's
deck that wants to play this card. I can't figure that out
Yeah,
yet.
she is very awkward in that deck, certainly. I mean, Esme into a bunch of stones is not exactly where you want to be, and you're certainly already constrained on board space and everything.
And
So
hand size.
yeah, that too.
So, like, she's in an awkward spot considering that's where Wiccan is at. And Wiccan itself, I think, as a deck, finds it really hard to compete with, like, the Batroc screams of the world, right? Where you're just like, Sam Wilson Craven, Batroc Scream, I'm scaling all my 2 drops bigger than your stuff. Nice Magneto, my Craven has 17 power, I don't care, right? And that's sort of been where Wiccan's fallen apart recently, is it is not exactly able to keep up on points with the decks that are doing similar mid-range stuff with more inbuilt synergy. And I wonder what can, like, I'm not sure Esme can change that, is my ultimate worry. Like, maybe you get a Wiccan version of a V-hand deck and that he's just there to, like, keep high rolling a little bit more. That could make sense to me.
I could see that. And in previous metagames where there are decks where it's like you mentioned 17 power Craven, for example, right? Like the Wiccan
Yeah,
deck could potentially slot in an Iron Man. Esme, the Iron Man, suddenly have, you're just
sure.
trying to win your 2 locations with those, right? And that's it. And that can be successful, maybe not super ideal against the Scream versions of the deck where they can like Segron or Cannonball you or whatever, but
Yeah, I mean, like, it's there are options out there that can be explored. Let's move on to Surge.
this card is funny. 2/2 on reveal. Give the top card of your deck -1 cost and +1 power. After you play it, repeat this ability. Uh
So, oh, go ahead.
I don't think it's weak. but I'm a little skeptical. And it is mostly because of the starting 2/2 body. I understand completely where you're like, "Oh, I just get this rolling. It kinda just turbocharges my entire deck or whatever," but in practice, I'm not sure that that is how things are gonna go down. I could be wrong, certainly, but for everyone who is reading this card and just being like, "It's all upside," I don't know.
I think there's a couple of things that stick out. The first is it can make Kitty Pride cost 0. So, like, let's say you hit Kitty Pride with a chain of surges, then you get to, like, keep replaying the Kitty Pride for 0. What I don't know is, will that keep triggering the surge? Is that ability locked onto the card, or is it locked onto the surge? Their team answers have suggested that it is locked onto the surge, meaning that Cosmo on the surge lane will disrupt it the same as Cosmo on a Fireheart lane. Yeah, I see the face you're making.
Really? Okay.
So
I mean, that's a point in my favor.
it is. It is a point in your favor. It's a point in, like, I'm not sure this makes a ton of sense. But yeah, like, a 2/2 body is. Ugh. What is the minimum you would be willing to play this card and say this is how many procs you get per game?
It depends on what your deck is trying to do, right? Like, if you surge into a 6 and your deck is all about trying to play 2 6s or play a 6 and then Zola it or something, like doing something combo-y effectively, the minimum is 1. It is a very, very, very effective 1. But in just like generical mid-range kind of thing, kind of need to be doing it every turn in order for it to matter. But even then, like, you build your deck with a certain type of curve in mind. This gives your thing -1 cost. If, for example, on turn 4, you are playing your 4 that you drew that has been discounted to 3, so then you just have a floating energy. Well, you played a 2/2 to give a card +1 power, and then, maybe the card after that also +1 power if it is a card that you actually want to play, you know? So assuming things go 100% well, and obviously, yeah, Surge and Kitty, okay, sure. Now you're really doing it. You are. I will give you that one.
If that
Pretty
even
unlikely to happen.
works, like, does that give you 2 surge procs if you play Kitty and the card you drew? Because I don't think it does.
Well, at the very least, you are locking yourself into getting 1 per turn, right?
I don't know. I don't think you are. Like, that's what I mean, is like, I don't think the ability, from everything they've said in the team answers, I think the ability is located on Surge. So it's not like you're getting 2 procs with Kitty Pride. You're just, or not even like you're repeating the proc with Kitty Pride. It's just a Kitty Pride that
Yeah.
costs 0 and has 1 more. And you still have to play the top card of your deck every time if you want to continue doing it.
Okay. I was thinking, say you play this on 2,
Mm-hmm.
you hit Kitty Pride.
Sure.
Turn 3, you play a 3-drop and Kitty.
Yep.
Kitty hits the top card, right? You draw, and then you play Kitty plus the card that Kitty hit.
Yeah, I don't think
Even
that
if
works.
even if it only gives you 1 proc,
Mm.
that's still pretty good because you still have this 0 cost Kitty going,
Sure.
and you have still managed to surge every single turn, right?
Yeah.
So, if you are doing it twice a turn, well, you're probably gonna have a lot of flowing energy, first of all, but
Yes.
then your cards are getting significantly more power also, which is very strong. But I don't know, you play Surge, you're it's just 1 in 11 basically, right? To hit Kitty no matter what, because
Yep.
either Kitty has been a card that you have drawn or it's a card that's still in your deck. I think nothing really changes the fact that it's 1 in 11.
Yeah. The thing that strikes me about this card is there are 2 dynamics I want to talk about. The first is if you're cheating energy and then still floating energy, you're not cheating energy. Like,
Right.
if you are not using the energy you're cheating, it might as well not have happened. The second is this card wants you to play these sort of low to the ground mid-rangey decks. And with one notable exception, that being bounce. these decks are very often predicated on, their existence is dependent on tech cards like Shang-Chi, Enchantress, Juggernaut in order to compete with decks that are going bigger than them. And those tech cards, you kind of have to have them in your deck. Again, possible exception for bounce. But like, you don't want to play those. Like, you need to be a points only low curve deck. Scream, maybe, but we're already so heavy on twos.
Yeah, dude, especially now. So yeah, you surge, you hit a Shang-Chi or a Juggernaut, you draw that on turn 3, you're like, what am I doing? Do I just play my card to keep this surge thing going? I feel like you're sort of incentivized to do that.
I feel like that's insane because it's like, if I'm playing my Shang-Chi on turn 3 for 3 points of power, what am I doing putting either of these cards in my deck? 4, correct.
4 points of power.
Of course. But it's like, that brings us to the second dynamic, which is, it's usually very valuable to not show your opponent all of your power. Like, it's usually just a very good thing to keep as much explosiveness in your hand as you possibly can. And this card is telling you not only to do the opposite of that, but to do so in a way that is probably not even sequenced correctly.
Yeah, it is definitely telling you to play a pile of cards that does not really interact necessarily, which is not really where I want to be. I know it's certainly not where you want to be. Bounce, I think, does kind of fit that bill, and certainly if you are getting more uses out of the thing that Surge has done, I think that the value of that ability has gone up to the point where now we are looking into territory where you're not just getting a 2/2 body out of the deal, right? Like, you're able to like toxin back a thing that used to cost 1 that now costs 0. Obviously, you can see how that can snowball with like Falcon and Beast, whatever. But
yeah, go ahead.
I don't know. It's just, can Bounce afford to play a 2/2?
Yeah, I mean, like, you want to make the Agent Venom comparison, except he's a 2/5. And so it's like, he's a 2/5 that buffed all your cards. And so it's like, I don't know if you can make that comparison, but I will say, if you get like AV and this card rolling, suddenly you're just ripping 4s. Like, that's kind of sick, right? You're just like ripping 4s out here that cost 0. And like, maybe you can overload on disruptive effects like Iceman to sort of keep people off your back, cards that you're always wanting to play. But like, God forbid, right? Like, you draw the Beast and it's turn 3, and then you have to play 1-drop and a discounted Beast, and you're just like, I hate that I had to do that. There are just like, I think Bounce is the home that makes the most sense. It's just, it actually is kind of meeting like a very specific set of requirements that I don't think a lot of other decks meet.
Yeah, I agree with that. So I think the card is powerful, and we'll probably find a few different homes that are fairly satisfying. Bounce is one of them. I don't know how good Bounce is right now, whatever. I could see people trying this in Surfer. I could see this functioning as sort of a backup Zabu, where if you don't draw Zabu, you play Surge on 2, your deck has a pretty high potency of 4s. Well, okay, you're pretty well set up to play a 4 on turn 3 then. Then you start looking at the fact that you have like Zabu and Surge in your deck, 2 cards that do not provide much power, and you got to figure out, what the hell am I doing with that?
Do you think Agamotto spells break this?
How do you think it interacts? You just think the power thing doesn't matter, right?
That would be my guess, where like the power thing doesn't apply. But it's just like a weird edge case that I hadn't thought of until right now, where it's like, you get your thing, and like, I know Cassandra Nova, for example, subtracts power, doesn't count any spells as cards in deck, right? I kind of wonder if this, like, them not having power means they'll also dodge the cost reduction. Second Dinner, if you're listening, go check that. Let's go check that before this comes out.
I mean, Cassandra is specifically stealing.
Yes,
right?
She is.
So I think that's a little different than just like, oh, give this card this text or whatever.
Yeah, Fastos works on the spells, so.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I feel like that's precedent enough.
Yeah, that makes sense. Who is next on our list?
Oh, I gotta hit this back button real quick. Hold on, my bad. Prodigy.
Sure.
3-4 on reveal. If this is in the back row, copy the text of the card in front of it. Gotta say, I like this back row stuff. I
Sure.
like it. These are maybe not my favorite implementations or utilizations of it or whatever, but I like the fact that we are getting cards that care about this sort of thing. Anyway, okay, so you have 4 slots, right? I would imagine top left is slot 1.
Yes.
Slot 2 is the card next to it, because if you play a second card, that's where it goes. So if you play Prodigy in slot 3, it goes behind slot 1. But because I'm thinking of it as like 1, 2, 3, is Prodigy thinking that like card 2 or card 1 is in front of him? Does that make sense?
Card 1. It's the card directly in front of where he's played, I think.
See, I would think that too, but I'm just asking questions, you know?
What weirds me out about this card specifically is that it's just almost certainly a very bad play on 3. Like, one of the things we've learned about front row, back row stuff with Captain Carter is just how awkward it can be to actually get stuff in those back rows late in the game. Is there a world where this is a card that makes sense with, say, a Sarah version of Silver Surfer? It could. Like, what weirds me out about this, though, is like, how do you get the card volume? How do you get the cards on the board while also having them be things you want to copy? How do you make that happen? It seems really hard.
What is the best 2-cost card that you would want to curve with this?
Sam Wilson. It's Sam Wilson.
Why?
Because Sam Wilson lets you manipulate the exact thing that I was talking about, like getting the shield into the second spot, then playing Prodigy into the third, stuff like that.
What? Yeah, but then you are Prodigy.
Yeah, then you move the Sam shield and you feel stupid. But like just the fact that it can get up, like the Sam shield will always be in front of Prodigy, which does matter.
I'm saying, what is the best 2-cost card to copy with this?
The best 2-cost card to copy with this?
What has the most appealing text for this?
Iron Patriot?
That'd be pretty good.
I don't think you can do that, though. I don't think you can curve 2-cost into 3-cost and copy again with Prodigy. I don't think you can do it. What are you talking? Are you talking about Mr. Sinister? What is happening? You
go turn 2 Iron Patriot, turn 3 Wasp Prodigy.
Oh my god.
Duh.
God. Yes, Wasp would technically solve these problems. I have some doubts as to whether or
how
not
much
that's a
is
real
it worth
thing.
to you, KM?
Not that, but maybe you could put it in your, maybe you could play Wasp in your Abomination high Evo deck and not feel stupid about it, you know? I think you could do that. I think I think that deck already exists, right? If you want to just cut something and put Wasp in there, you might as well do it. It's just like, what am I copying with my Prodigy then? I can see getting like a second Hazmat. I can't see a second Ajax ever being useful. Like it's just like, what am I getting out of this? How do I make this guy work? He's the biggest question mark in the season to me.
Yeah, not in the same location, certainly. I mean, it's similar to Moonstone kind of stuff, right? Where it's like, there are a lot of things you can point to where it's like, this goes super tall in this location. And it's like, okay, well, you gotta win another location in addition to this one, right? So what are we doing that goes kind of wide, I guess, or just gives you like a team-wide buff?
Yeah, and more importantly, what deck plays with slots enough to make you want to do this? And the answer to me that comes to mind is Elsa Bloodstone. Like, here's something I can see. You play
Elsa
Galacta.
Don't mind a wasp.
You play Galacta. She's the first card in the lane, right? You play one-drop Prodigy behind Galacta, and then you have 2 Galactas.
Oh, you play 1-drop Prodigy, and then you play the Wasp in the other location. That's now
Well, you don't
a
even need to play the
7
Wasp. You have 5 energy on that turn, presumably, so you get to just play another 1-drop on the right. So Kitty Galacta stuff. Maybe it wants a second Galacta. Maybe it wants a second Elsa Bloodstone. Maybe it wants a second whatever. That seems like where I would go for this guy.
Less fun, but you're right.
Yeah. Like it's the kind of thing where like you have to be a deck that plays well with like you have a scaler in the first one that contributes power to the other lanes, and then you have a Kitty Pride so you can manipulate spaces, right? And so that's kind of, again, this is like a card that doesn't look specific. I can't believe my like I tried to get that out. I didn't have enough air. It doesn't
Yeah.
look specific, but it in practice I kind of wonder if it might play much more specific than it looks. It looks like the most open-ended guy I've ever seen, but I think because of what it takes to turn him on, it ends up being just much harder.
Yeah, for sure. Because okay, well, here's another 3-cost card, Silver Surfer card.
Yeah, like what am I
at that, and
copying?
it's like, yeah, you surfering, then playing a card, then playing Prodigy to copy the Surfer. Like you could just play the Surfer last, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not. I don't know. Anyway, you're talking about the Galacta stuff. So you go Galacta, 1-drop Prodigy, another 1-drop somewhere else, +6.
Yep.
Cool. Now you only have 1 turn left of that stuff. Are you in the market for Zabu Surge trying to turn 3 this Galacta so that you get
Zabu, yes. Surge, no.
Okay, fine.
That's sort of where my head is at right this. It's like when I think about what actually makes sense with Prodigy, it's that kind of stuff. It's like some sort of kitty thing. Something
Wait.
that yes.
What if you go Surge, Wasp, Prodigy? Now you have 2 Surges going? What does that do? That's got to be good, right?
Well, I'm 90% sure she doesn't go exponential. But 2 Surges going does seem pretty cool. Of course, why would you go Surge, Wasp, Prodigy? Like, what would the... Like, because then you've just broken your Surge chain. Unless you drew the Prodigy, in which case you can do Surge,
true.
1-drop Prodigy.
True.
I don't know.
What if you surged the Wasp? Oopsie.
Finally, we found a reason for you to not play Wasp. It's the anti-synergy with Surge.
You're going to need many more reasons.
Sure.
All I wanted to do with Surge was make my cards effectively cost 0. It's not Wasp's fault that she's already great and does that, but, you know.
Have you seen, are you aware? I'm sure you're not. This is like one of 5 comic panels I've saved. You don't know this, I'm sure. Janet Van Dyne canonically knows P. Diddy.
Why?
Great question. But there's a comic panel of her saying, "Oh, Sean's just a friend." She's having a conversation with She-Hulk about like eligible bachelors. Diddy comes up and she says, "Oh, Sean is just a friend." So Janet Van Dyne on the Epstein list. That's what we know. Your fave is problematic.
No, they're just friends. You know, they're not.
Yeah, they're just
the next panel is going to be Mr. Combs is only an acquaintance.
Let's walk that back. But yeah, like it was just, I don't know, some comment from like I think 2016 or whatever, before all capital T, capital A, the allegations came out. So yeah, Janet Van Dyne canonically at least a little bit problematic.
You know what? Nothing you have ever said to me has gotten me closer to not wanting to play Wasp than this. But
one day I'll convince you. I don't know if that day is today. I doubt that it is. But all great victories happen slowly over time.
I have at least like my 50-day chip of not playing Wasp in Marvel Snap.
I
will relapse. That will happen, but
there are decades when weeks happen and weeks when decades happen, and one of these days we're going to get one of those weeks when it comes to your relationship with Wasp.
Oh no, I just clicked on the next card.
Yeah.
Snap fan, why are you like this?
What do you mean?
I'm
Why are
gonna
they like this?
I wanna how can I send this to you? Can I text you? No, I don't even have your number. We're
It's
not that good
true.
of friends.
I mean,
Mr. Best
no
is only
one
an
is.
acquaintance.
I have 13 people in my phone. Every one of them is either my parents, my girlfriend, or from a job that I've worked at. I lost my
I am
contacts when I
very
switched over to
envious.
Android, and I've never felt even the slightest desire to build them back up.
Yeah, it's like when I got off Facebook.
Yeah.
It was
Like,
like,
what
"Oh,
am
I'm
I
probably gonna miss
missing?
this," and then no.
What am I missing?
Alright.
What am I actually missing?
Well, I sent you the thing that SnapFan is showing me. You can look forward to that later.
Okay.
Uh, it is an ad for Goddess of Victory Nikke
Don't you already
that
play that? What a terrible
I
ad.
I play a lot of these games. No, it's actually a great ad because they're like, "Oh, well, this filthy weeb is probably gonna like this game," and it's just showing this little girl's feet. I just wanted to see the text on Elixir.
I mean, they know
That's
what
all.
you want. They know what you want better than you do. They
I also have ad blocker. What is going on?
that actually is weird. Because I can tell you, I really hope the guy who runs SnapFan doesn't listen to this. He is in my Discord. I've never seen an ad on SnapFan. It's okay. I know plenty of people ad block my stuff too.
As they should.
Yeah. It's
I mean,
not necessarily a
if
moral
it,
imperative, but I don't know how people browse the internet without that shit. Not gonna lie to you.
yeah, have you ever tried to, I don't know, use your phone to browse the internet? It's not
It's
great.
awful, dude. It's like just asking to get 75 pop-ups from every website you visit. It's terrible.
We've done so far
Mm.
37 minutes without going on a tangent. Can I go on a tangent?
Yeah. I mean, that was always allowed.
Well, I feel like we did the 8 cubes thing, and then people were like, "Oh, they really can focus."
No.
It's 37 minutes. That's like an 8 cubes episode.
That is like an 8 Cubes episode, yeah.
If you haven't seen the 8 cubes episode, go watch it. It was pretty
There
good.
is approximately 0% that the audience pipeline from my larger channel to this channel goes the direction you're suggesting. But I appreciate your optimism.
There were some people who, yeah, I guess they didn't know who I was. Understandable. I'm not saying that you should know.
You
But yeah,
should.
I guess that means that they weren't watching this. Anyway, I got a new phone this weekend, upgraded my phone. It's been 3 years or something. And I was there for about an hour in this Verizon wireless store. And thing that I did not realize was going to happen is that I was going to hear basically every story of every person that came in to deal with their phone issues.
Yep.
Uh, one of them, there are many good ones, but the one that is relevant to this story is at some point I hear the manager of the Verizon store saying, "Okay, I just uninstalled 12 quote unquote cleaning apps from your phone. I also uninstalled 32 other applications that were slowing down your phone." And the guy is just like, "Okay, so my phone works now?" And the guy's like, "Yes, but please stop doing this. Your phone does not need cleaning apps. I don't know if you're just watching YouTube and a thing pops up, says you have a virus or whatever, and you just click it." And the guy's like, yeah, I have been doing that." And the guy's like, "Stop. Please, dear God, stop. Stop doing that." And the guy's like, "I don't know. It said my phone was dirty. So I clicked a thing."
Yeah. There's a contingent of boomers who are utterly unable to reckon with the depravity and dishonesty of internet advertising. Like, just would not even understand that people can just lie to you about what a thing is.
Yeah. Why would they say my phone was dirty when it was in fact not dirty?
Yeah, like, what do you mean they're lying? Why would someone lie to sell me something? That's ridiculous.
Anyway, I clicked on this Nikkei ad. Now I have a virus.
That'd be a really funny way to go about it, is like embed your virus in ads for gacha games, and then instead of getting them to install the gacha game, the money printing machine, you just like have them download an even less margin of return of investment app, like a lower
Yeah.
ROI app, instead of just getting them hooked on your like Weeb Foot Casino, which trademark. Nobody else gets to make Weeb Foot Casino exclusive property of me. That's my next venture.
I think you're onto something.
It's
I
a
mean,
match
I'm
3
in.
game with like different feet.
Oh,
Yeah, I did it. It's like it's actually just
I got it wrong again. I just have to keep looking at these pictures of feet. Oh no.
Wait, they should actually make that. They should do like WikiFeet. WikiFeet should do like a slot machine where it's just different celebrities' feet. Like, and then like that, like you get the jackpot by getting like it did like 5 feet of the same foot.
It's 5 things instead of like the normal 3 or whatever, right?
Sure.
And it's like you get the actual foot to line up. You get one of each toe.
Oh, dude. I was thinking, because like I thought about match 3, it's like, well, we don't have 3 feet. And match 2, I don't think that works. So what about a 4 slot machine? Yeah, no, 5. I think you nailed it. I honestly, like, I hate to be like, I'm doing all this jokes. I kind of think that would do numbers. Like, I kind of
That's why you
think,
pay me the big bucks.
yep. I kind of think that would do numbers. I think that would go places. You'd get to like outrage market it, you know? Be like, oh, look at this disgusting game. Where can I find it?
Yeah. Your phone's dirty. Download this foot game.
Famously clean
twist
things,
my arm.
Feet.
Twist my arm, yeah.
Well, twist your leg.
You want to talk about Elixir?
I was going to add a couple more foot jokes. I like twist your leg instead of twist your arm. Like, I felt like you no-sold that a little bit. But yeah, sure, we could talk about Elixir.
You could have said anything there. I was trying to move on. Anyway, Elixir 2/3 on reveal. One of your cards destroyed last turn gets revived here. What is a thing?
Go ahead.
That I want to blow up and then return.
Yeah, the issue is last turn, I think, with this card. Where it's like, spoiler, I guess. I mean, like, this card was originally meant to be releasing in the same season as Kid Omega per the earlier data mines. And Kid Omega is an activate card that blows up a card. And so it makes a lot of sense why this card would be balanced in this way with Kid Omega releasing, but they're not releasing Kid Omega this month, as far as I know. According to the most recent data mines, it's coming in like June or something. And obviously, like, this is all data mines, but it does make me wonder, like, isn't this just actually bad if you don't have a way to guaranteed blow something up on 5? Is this a thing you're actually ever going to want to do outside of, like, a Magic deck, which basically the second you start being a Magic deck, I'm like, you're never going to be a deck that is relevant or the best deck unless everything lines up perfectly a la Clog. But like, if you're like a Magic Nimrod deck, what are we doing here, you know?
Yeah, I don't know. I read a card like this and I think, well, there's got to be something good here. Obviously, Kid Omega would make sense in that, well, the Kid Omega gets the card's power, and then Elixir effectively brings back that power.
Or like a Black Panther, where like it dies at 10 or whatever, and then comes back and doubles up to 20. Like, all that stuff seems super compelling to me, but now we don't have a way to make stuff die on 5.
Yeah, so you'd have to ramp into the Black Panther and then like Venom it.
Right.
And then bring it back or something.
Right, so like in your Galactus Electro deck, you could do that. But then you're only playing Elixir. It's like, wait a minute. What is this card actually doing right now? Like, this is a card that it sort of feels like, I kind of feel like they got it backwards. Kid Omega should have been the card they're selling, and this should have been the Series 4. Like, but instead there's no Kid Omega, and this goes from like a possible supplementary piece to a card I genuinely cannot figure out a use for.
I'm still looking. I don't know. There's like maybe some misery stuff that is okay.
I don't want to bring back
perhaps.
the hood.
Yeah, me either, really.
Like, if I'm doing that, I might as well just play Fire Hair. You know, at least that way I don't get the 1/3 body. It's like, this has to happen. Something's got to die on turn 5. What do we have that we are able to blow up on turn 5? What is it that's good that does that?
I don't know. I mean, either way, there's going to be a stronger use case for this, or a strongest use case, right? I don't know what that is. It is not immediately obvious. I'm sure other people will figure it out.
Yeah, I kind of feel like there is no strong use case for this. Like, in as much as there is something strongest, this feels like a card that is hamstrung by its own text in a really meaningful way. Where it's like, if this card did not say last turn, at least then you'd have the ability to, like, set something up, right? Like, blow up something in your destroy deck, like getting down an early death and venoming it or whatever, because all the other cards in your destroy deck revive themselves. Like, there'd be something to try for with this. And as is, it's just, I find it hard to believe that there is.
What about you play like Star Brand and then Venom it and then bring it back? Then you have a Star Brand in play, which is maybe not the best thing, but
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, is last turn really that bad? Because assuming you are playing a deck that does blow up multiple things, this is a way to kind of solidify it into bring back the thing that you actually want to bring back instead of maybe a bunch of squirrels or whatever, right?
Sure. Can you read the card again? Does it say a destroyed card or your card?
One of your cards destroyed last turn gets revived here.
There goes my Shang-Chi dream.
Yep.
It's like,
no Shangers, no Negasonics, no Gladiators.
yeah, this
It
card
is
was
not.
also,
It is not Fenris Wolf 2.
This card was also data mined as an activate. And I think even that, like, if you go back to activate, you take off next turn, suddenly it's an Arnim Zola card. Makes Arnim Zola go 3 lanes. That seems pretty cool. Well, you're making a face.
I mean, it still does that if you accelerate into both. And
yeah,
if it's last turn, you still have to accelerate into it, right?
Yeah, if it's last. I said if you take off last turn, you go back to activate, because I think that's how it was in the data mine. Which, like,
oh, sure.
That card
okay,
seems a little bit busted, so I get why they didn't do that. It's just, it sort of feels like an overcorrection to me.
It would be super nice if that was how it worked. Like, you just run this out and it just sits there, and then eventually you just blow up a thing and revive it.
Yeah, you just play Arnim Zola and get it back, and then you just have whatever it is you blew up in all 3 lanes. It's dope.
I could totally see that being too strong, though.
Yeah, no, it does sort of, like, yes, you can play an Arnim Zola with absolutely no cost. Perhaps that is too good. Don't get me wrong. It could very easily be very annoying to have a bunch of Black Panthers running everywhere. But as is, I just can't figure this guy out. I don't get him at all. Doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know what he's supposed to do. I don't know where he's supposed to go. Feels like the biggest dud since Thaddeus Ross, and at least I knew where he was supposed to go, even if he didn't make it. Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't get him. I just don't have Phoenix Force brain, you know? There's a certain type of brain you need to interpret a card like this, and maybe I'm just not, I don't have that gene, but this guy looks like a whiff to me.
The next ad that I'm seeing is Sweet Snuggles TM Yarn.
See, I thought you were gonna segue back to feet because I said the word whiff. But no. No, you took it a totally different direction.
Well, today you're learning something about me, KM, and it's that I don't necessarily, like, if someone says smell, something, I don't immediately go to feet.
Well, you just started talking about the ad, you know? It was like a reasonable.
Because I hit the back button and I was scrolling down. And there was just this big ad for yarn. And it looks very soft.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I question Google's sense of who you are because
I
we're
like
pretty good
soft things.
friends. Yeah, no, I get that, but I don't know that I've ever seen you do handcrafting or arts and crafts in any way whatsoever.
Crafting, no. Art, yes, but those are different things.
Yeah, I actually know how to knit and crochet.
Dope. I don't.
Yeah, I know how.
I'm pretty useless.
I went to a Waldorf school for a little bit, which is like hippie stuff, but I learned how to like knit and crochet in school. Also, I feel like there's a subset of people for whom, upon hearing that, they'll be like, "Oh, you make so much sense to me now." I want you to know I did not go there for a long enough period of time for that to be true. I did not go
what
there
is
for a long enough period of time. I don't even know how to
what
explain it.
is
It's like
the
artsy crap. I
okay.
don't know. It's like a bunch of sort of alternative education theories, which when I say it makes it sound like Alex Jones or whatever. But it's actually just like it's like for relatively higher income liberal hippie types, I think, is sort of the stereotype that goes with it. Like when you think of like someone from Portland, it's like, did you go to a
Oh
Waldorf
yeah.
school? That's the vibe, right?
Oh, that's what that is.
Yeah.
Life makes so much more sense now.
It's like similar to Montessori. It's that kind of vibe where it's like the sort of well-to-do upper middle class liberal professionals send their kids there to get like a different kind of education that's like more holistic or whatever.
It's where the parents want their generational wealth to die with their child's generation.
I mean, that was just gonna happen anyway. You send me to public school, it doesn't matter. Yes. I play video games for a living, dog. Their generational wealth, such as it is, was always gonna die. My parents were, I would say, comfortable. Um, but I honestly don't think I describe them as upper middle class. Unfortunately, they're like
Yeah.
I know how much money at least one of them made, and maybe with both incomes you could put them in that range. I think with both incomes they were solidly in there.
I don't know. I think if you are questioning it, it is probably not there.
I feel like no one wants to admit that their parents are like upper middle class though. You know, the bar is always higher than where whatever it is like in your head. But then when you
Yeah.
look at actual numbers, they just like objectively were. And I think that would happen with me, where it's like when you look at numbers and their salaries together and like figure out what definition of upper middle class you want to use, I strongly suspect they would fall into it, despite the fact that I feel like the lifestyle that they lived was not in that vein whatsoever. I wish I could tell you how much terrible food I've eaten in my life, Like it's a vast amount. But I strongly suspect that like if you look at it mathematically, there's just so many people that are so much worse off than people think. Is just sort of how it is. So yeah, being comfortable is a
Yeah.
luxury.
I have a buddy who grew up poor, and he had this like situationship with this woman, and in trying to relate to him, she was like, "Oh yeah, I grew up poor too, like wasn't it so hard?" Da 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 da. And over time, he figured out that maybe she was not really telling the truth, because at some point she talked about how she had a tennis court in her backyard growing up. And he was like, "I thought you said you were poor." And she's like, "Oh no, we were." And he's like, "But this was your tennis court." And she's like, "Yeah, it was, ours on our property in our backyard." And he's like, "So you had a house?" And she's like, "Oh yeah, yeah, we had a house. It was pretty big. It was pretty nice." And he's like, "But you're saying you were poor." And it just gets to this point where she's like, "Our tennis court was not well maintained. Therefore we were poor."
Yeah, no, that's how it
And
is.
and also she brought up how traumatic it was that everyone else in their neighborhood had a pool and they did not have a pool, and therefore she got made fun of at school.
We definitely didn't have a pool. I'll tell you that much. You got to keep in mind, I don't know the right way to say this, so I'm going to say it the wrong way. We're Jewish,
Cool.
right?
Mm.
In the scale of Jews, I would say I probably had one of the worst houses in my my cohort. It's sort of how I would phrase it. Like, basically everyone we knew was some level of like professional information economy worker, right? They weren't
Sure.
working in services or whatever. They were like high tech or educational professionals at a fairly high level. Now, there were other reasons why our house was as mid as it was, but I don't think it would be fair for me to be like, oh, we probably weren't upper middle class. I would guess, because if you define middle class as like the two middle quartiles, I would guess there were, in terms of percentile, I would guess they were somewhere from 75 to 85 in terms of income, because just being a dual income will do a lot for that.
Oh yeah. I mean, having two parents that are together
Yep.
is just kind of cracked. I mean, my parents
Financial
divorced
hack.
my parents were divorced when I was 5 or 6, and my dad didn't really pay child support. So,
Yeah. My parents are divorced now. I came home from freshman year of college, and they were like, "We have something very important to tell you." And they're like, "We're getting divorced," and I was like, "That sucks." Like, I don't know. I feel like I didn't go through any of the emotions that you're supposed to go to, where it's like, "Oh, was this my fault?" Because it obviously was. Like, it was so obviously my fault. I put so much stress on them. Of course they were getting divorced in part because of the pressure I put on them. Does that make
But
it
you were
my
gone.
actual fault? No, 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 no. I just mean like it had been coming for a long time because of my behavior, my inability to be a functioning human being as a kid. Like, it's just like a very obviously, yes, I contributed here, but it's like there's nothing I can do
It's
about it.
it's a chicken or egg situation because they did send you to the Waldorf school, so I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean like the thing about them is a lot of my worst habits are things I recognize in my dad. And he's a little bit worse at all of them than I am. And so, in as much as I'm aware of my shortcomings as a partner, in large part it's because I watched him have those shortcomings. And so when I
Then you still
talk about
did
it
them.
talk when I talk about it being my fault, I talk about it in the sense of like, I know I didn't help. But also when I think about who they were as people, I kind of don't think they were going to work anyway.
Fair.
But I
But they
know I
created
was not
you,
helpful.
you
I know I
magnificent
was not
bastard.
helpful. I have the exact kind of parental relationship that has guaranteed that I should not have kids or that I don't want them. Because this is actually quite personal, I think. My dad didn't want kids until he did. And so then when they had me, I think, I don't want to speak for him, he didn't want to be a dad. He wasn't someone who wanted the reality of the situation. He was someone who wanted what he had in his head about the situation. And so the reality of the situation, that it's hard, that you can't just abdicate all responsibility for your child because you don't want to be a parent, he was unable to deal with that. And I have gained the modicum of self-awareness that is like, I don't want a kid, and also I'm not going to talk myself into doing it because I think it'd be okay, because I know the type of person that I am, and it wouldn't be okay. I would hate doing shit for another dude. Are you kidding me? I'm not doing a goddamn thing for that. Like, there's no way. And so I have no desire to have kids, in large part because I'm fairly certain he shouldn't have.
I get that. I feel mostly the same way, but I don't know. I had a pregnancy scare at one point that ended up being nothing, and
Mm.
just immediately biology mind controlled me.
Really?
Yeah.
Hmm.
I was just like, yeah, okay, let's do this. Yeah, like I'll stop doing these bad things. I guess I'll start doing these
Oh,
things. I can start making
oh.
more money this way. And then the next day or two or whatever is when we found out that it was nothing, and then I just immediately went back to being a shitbag. It's crazy.
So relatable. Oh my god. I mean, other than the part where you actually thought you were gonna change, I'm constantly on shitbag mode. You know what I mean?
I was motivated to change, but yeah, we did not get far enough down the line to where it's like,
Where you could
where'd
actually
that
test
motivation
it.
go? Why didn't
Yeah.
that lead to anything? I mean, thankfully, never had to find out,
Yeah. No, it's the kind of thing where it's like I I know you never feel like you're ready for things as an adult. Like one of the major things that you notice is that like nobody has any idea what's going on and the world is much 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 stupider than you thought it was when you were a kid. You just assumed there was like good reasons that things were happening, but there just kind of aren't a lot of the time, or at
It's
least
all
not
random.
reasons that like make sense in a just world, right? And in that sense, it's like, okay, maybe you just think you're not ready for kids. Maybe you would be ready for kids. And then I think about what I did today, which was sit in bed extensively, take a nap after waking up early to furnish the new place, then go to sleep and wake up at 4 p.m., make a video on YouTube, and then be like, wow, that was a complete day. Like, yes, it's
Yeah,
Sunday,
hard
but
day's
it's
work.
also like, yeah, like, yes, it's Sunday, but like, yeah, I mean, like, and yes, I'm recording like 4 hours of content tonight. Yes, like, there was work put in previously in order to make that YouTube video. Yeah, all that stuff is true. But I just don't think I have the capacity to do what it takes to be a father. And I'm not going to trick myself into treating some poor kid like shit because of that.
Yeah.
That's just
I have
that's just where I'm at.
I have 3 cats. I love them dearly. I would do anything for them, even though what I'm about to say is probably going to contradict that. Where they mostly fend for themselves, and then when they want to snuggle with me or whatever, I give them the attention they want, and then they're like, "Okay, we're done here," and then they fuck off, you know.
Yep.
And try and play with them like once or twice a day or whatever, but certainly 24/7, like you're no longer living for yourself effectively when you have a human child, right? And even having a dog is more of that than having kids.
Yep. I mean, I have a
So
dog,
I don't
so
know.
there you go. I'm an experienced parent, but no, like I just don't think that I would want to do to a child what my dad did to me, even though I think, grading him on a curve, he wasn't that bad. It's just not the kind of I wouldn't wish my childhood on anyone. And I don't know how much of that is his fault, but I definitely wouldn't want other people to go through it.
Sure. I mean, I think I turned out okay, and
Yeah.
my mom was effectively never around, but that's because she was working 3 jobs to support 3 kids, and that didn't even translate to like us being meaningfully supported, I suppose.
Yeah.
Whereas like, we always had money problems and we're getting evicted and shit. Like 3 jobs even does not cut it. So I don't know. She did her best. I think that she was a wonderful parent when she was able to be present. It was just there was not a lot of opportunity for her to actually do that. And that certainly sucks. I would not want that for anyone or whatever, but I don't know, could also be worse. Like you could do a much worse job than that.
I'm sure I could. I have great faith in my ability to do that. Absolutely. It's genetic. But yeah, that's just sort of where I'm at mentally on it. I don't really expect that to change. Uh, shout out to everyone who feels like they are able to be parents. But I would advise anyone who's not sure about it, don't do that to your kid. If you're not sure, I feel like that is a recipe for problems. And granted, I did turn out right, but I will say that I turned out okay. But I will say this, I have hurt people. I have, I mean, even less focused on other people, just focused on me. I don't remember the vast majority of my childhood. And I don't really know why. I mean, maybe that's a normal thing. But like sometimes
I
people
was
will
gonna say,
mention
are you supposed to? Because I don't really either.
well, sometimes people will mention stuff to me like, "Do you remember this?" And it's like, not really. And when I think back on what I do remember, almost every memory I have of my childhood is bad. It is me crying or being upset or being a shithead. And I imagine the rest of them are things I don't remember because they were all so bad. Like, just like bad in like a sort of low level, forgettable way.
Yeah.
And again, like, I feel like I do okay for myself now. I try, but I wouldn't want to put someone through that. I don't think I'd want to do that. Like, it just doesn't seem like a pleasant thing to do.
Yeah, but you could also look at it like the fact that you are able to be self-aware and say that and recognize that means that maybe you are the type of person who should
That's
be a
the trap.
parent.
That's the trap.
You
It's like, oh yeah,
know,
I've fixed all of my parents' problems, and then you just unload a whole new wave of totally different problems onto the kid. And
yeah, of course. But that's the thing, man, is like who who escapes their childhood completely unscathed, especially in America. You know, it's like
yeah,
there are just so many systemic issues. Like it's basically set up so that like no one's life is supposed to be good, you know, or like without issues at the very least. So I don't know, man. Like at least you are able to like recognize when shit is bad and maybe that counts for something. But
yeah. I mean,
I
speaking of recognizing when shit is bad, I mean, Elixir.
I'm not there yet, but that's only because I haven't done full exploration.
I couldn't resist it. I couldn't resist the gag of like trying to somehow segue that back into Marvel Snap. I felt like it was I felt called.
Well, you were talking about like mid stuff, right? And then I was like, speaking of mid, how about Zorn? But he's not. He's not mid at all. He's actually great. But there's no segue there when we're talking about how shitty our
No, it's
childhoods were.
it's true. I mean, I don't want to interrupt you. I would like you to continue, but I just wanted to get that segue on record.
Yeah. I don't know. I'll talk about Zorn. I forget what we were talking about anyway. You'd be a fine dad. Be all right. Your kids probably
Thanks,
wouldn't
man. I
die or
appreciate
something.
it. I'd be very bad at it just based on like how hard it is for me to take care of my animals. But yes.
Your bar is high though. I don't know.
Sure, it is. And it
Humans,
should
humans,
be.
brilliant, man.
Yeah, just believing in the indomitable human spirit while I neglect my kid to go play like video games. Ah, you'll get over it, slugger.
Dude, there are
Daddy's
days
got to
where
go
I
to
had a
work.
there are days where I had like a piece of bread to eat, you know? I'm
Uh, da-
fine.
daddy's gotta go get mad at fake snipers on a video game.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem like a viable strategy, you know? Doesn't seem like a good move. Like
By the
Elixir.
time by the time you're able to have a kid and they're able to form memories that potentially last them forever,
Mhm.
Marvel Snap might not be around. So, you know.
Right. Daddy's got to go be unemployed. Daddy's got
Yeah.
some horse tracks to visit.
Hell yeah.
Daddy's got to go out for cigarettes. Yeah, that Daddy's
What
got to
happened to my dad?
abandon all of his responsibilities and never look back and live in a Motel 6. That's my plan for the future.
Zorn 2-3. After any 3 or 4 cost card is played here, move it to another location. Just like my
Just like
dad
my
when he went
dad.
out to buy
Yeah.
cigarettes. Yeah. Send him to the moon.
Soren is the reason my dad left.
Yeah.
Oh, but it actually is. Who would in Marvel Snap? Who would your dad be? I'm trying to
Uh,
construct a joke here. I'm trying to construct a
I
bit.
I had literally never thought about this. The first
I
thing
had
that
not
popped
either.
into my mind specifically is Red Guardian.
Yeah, I mean, I buy that. I also think that would apply to my dad.
Really?
Yeah. He's
Dude
like a
is
big
just
history
giving
guy.
like neglectful dad vibes. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, he's like a big history guy. Yeah, he's got a beard. He's like kind of like tall, but also like overweight. Yeah, no, that could be my dad. I could see that. That's the vibe.
All right.
Yeah. And
What about
Zorn will
Zorn though?
move Red Guardian, and he will not come back.
Zorn. Well, will it though?
What do you mean, will
If
it?
Red Guardian hits the Zorn, and then
Oh, well, good thing about my dad, he did never hit me. So, grading on that curve, baby. Got that going
yeah,
for
my
me.
dad didn't either. It was just the rest of my family.
Oof. I have, and this is how you know I had like a mid bad childhood and not a bad childhood. I got like spanked. I don't really think that counts. That's like a different thing.
I
I
mean,
have
it's
never been
bad,
like
but
hit
it's
in the
not.
face. I never got hit
Yeah,
in the face. I'll say that much. So that's how I
spanking
only had
bad.
yeah,
Actually, getting like punched or
much
backhanded or
worse.
whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah, a little bit worse.
because there's like no structure to it. With the spanking, it's like an intent to teach. With the off the cuff violence is so like it's clearly off the cuff. It's just like I'm mad, bah, as opposed to like any even
You
like
you did something bad. You're making me do this.
right like there's not even like the misguided belief that like physical pain would reform somebody in that. It's just being mad.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Yep. I can tell you
Anyway,
spanking never
Zorn's
fucking
tight.
worked on me. Sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah, let's talk about Zorn. Let's talk about Zorn.
especially because he ended up liking it. Anyway, Zorn, yeah, pretty good card in move decks, but also I think maybe low key underrated as just a disruption tool. No,
yeah, I kind of think guy is just probably pretty solid. Like he's gonna randomly win you some games where people are like, I can't fucking play there.
yeah, or like as a scream card probably.
Yeah. Just my little scream procker. I think it'll have like the same effect as like Kingpin does, where it's just like where Kingpin just like whenever anyone plays Kingpin, everyone just plays in that lane forever, so they can't get moved to Kingpin. And so like
Yeah,
it'll be the reverse of that, where it's like no one will just the people just not play there. But I do think like the Hydra Stomper, Craven, Sam Wilson, Batroc stuff seems pretty real to me. And this could be a good offensive slash defensive card for whatever that deck ends up becoming. Scream or no?
why they all twos though?
Yeah. I actually here's my theory. Someone brought up how Jeff used to be great, right? And like they missed that. But when you go back and actually look, Jeff should never be a card that's like the best in slot 2.
Jeff was a playable card in a sea of unplayable cards. That's all it
Exactly.
was.
And now we have actual good 2s. And people are like, "Oh my god, let's go back to Jeff." And what they're missing is that it actually sucks that the design space of 2s was so limited that a shocker that moved was the best card. That actually sucks. That's actually terrible. Like that is so ass. And now
You know what
people are
I love about my card games, especially when it's only 12 card decks, is that when I have to put 3 cards in my deck that I just think are complete ass.
and they're just like they're good enough cards that you win games, but they're just the most boring things of all time. Say what you want about Sam Wilson, at least he does stuff. At least there is a quest involved in playing Sam Wilson. Jeff just existed and like synergized enough with whatever it was you were already doing that you were just like, yeah, I'll play that because every other 2-drop in the game is the worst card ever made.
Yeah. You play Jeff or a 2/2 that punches me in the face.
Damn.
Like, okay, I guess it's Jeff. And wow, Jeff looks really good by comparison. Doesn't mean that Jeff is a strong card.
Yep. And I think Jeff, like, when you think about the competition that he's gotten, I think all that competition has diversified 2 drops and made the game better. And so when you say why
I
are they
do
all
agree.
twos? Like I don't know.
I
Maybe it's fine.
look, I agree. My problem specifically is like all these move related cards are all twos.
I think
I
it's
don't care
just
if they make a bunch of awesome twos. It's just like, why are you putting all the move cards at two?
I think it's just basically impossible to make a good move 4 or 5. Like in order to do that, it would have to be like so absurdly messed up.
That is probably the correct answer.
Like you look at Fanfei, and it's like I don't know how that card could be stronger. Like I don't know what you could reasonably do to that card to make it stronger. What are you gonna 4-8 it? What are we doing here? Like you look at Topaz, right? You could make that card cheaper and it would get way better. Spider-Man 2099. Crap. Like this just I don't know what a 4 or 5. Could you pitch me a move 4 or 5 that doesn't either immediately break the game or end up entirely unplayable?
So there's basically two camps to move. One is move either itself or your other stuff for a bonus, or the other one is doing something negative to your opponent, whether it's just disruption or, you know, killing their stuff or turning it into a rock or whatever, right? Uh I feel like it can't just be beneficial power to you unless it goes wide. Because the stuff that we have available at 1, 2, 3, Human Torch, Dagger, Vulture, like what do you want to do? Like a 4/8 that doubles or
Yeah.
something? Like, come on.
Yeah, it does sort of raise a question. Like, how do you do
But
better than
unless
that?
yeah, so unless you're doing that, it's just like, well, I'll just play Human Torch because like what the hell, you know? Uh yeah, I guess either doing multiple things or doing something that is go wide, you know, like a 4 or something or other that when it moves, maybe you galacted to random things or something.
I think 4/6 Human Torch would actually be pretty solid.
I mean, probably, but you still if there's a card that is ever on the chopping block in your deck, it is that over the 1, 2, 3.
Probably. I don't know. Like maybe you'd have to do like 4/7, but there's a world in which you're just like, I'm gonna get one move out of this card, and it's gonna be busted as hell. And that is a different dynamic from every other move card where it's like, I would like 2 moves out of this, right? Like you could play like Zorn and 4/7 Human Torch, and it would just be like, yeah, I'm doing this. It's awesome. I'm in.
Yeah. Everything else is like, well, I want to be moved 30 times. And you're like,
Yes.
okay, I guess I'll try and do that. But yeah, the moving one stuff is like Spider-Man 2099, and it is so hit or miss. Either it wins you the game or does nothing.
Yeah, and I feel like that's sort of the space that a lot of big expensive move cards have to exist in because of the power of the early ones. I know you've thought for a while that they just need to like fix Human Torch by making it the one that costs 3 and Vulture the one that costs 1.
Why is the doubler the one that costs 1? Why is the one with the flat increase the one that costs 3? It doesn't make any sense.
I feel like you're verging into Seinfeld territory there.
All right. Now I feel bad. Thanks.
What's the deal with Marvel Snap's balance?
Yeah, I am picking up what you're putting down, and now I feel bad. That's what I'm saying.
Why does that make you feel bad? That's like, I'm Jewish. That's
'Cause I don't want
basically
to
a
be that
compliment.
guy.
Well,
I
you
don't want
don't
to be
have
that
to
guy.
actually be Jerry Seinfeld, you know? But like being a
I
good
don't want to
complainer,
emulate anything about that guy.
okay, I realize at this point it is important to clarify that this podcast does not endorse being a 38-year-old and dating a 17-year-old, but saying you are doing a comedy routine similar to Jerry Seinfeld does not imply the Epstein associations of Jerry Seinfeld.
I mean, it doesn't not make those associations either. So
I don't know, man. I feel like you're allowed to be like, What's the deal with airline food? Like, I'm Jewish. That's like my ancestral culture. Unfortunately, is complaining about a very minor thing. That's what we do. That's a very personal story to me. Is finding something minor and being like, this is the biggest deal on earth. Have you seen this?
Yeah,
Have you heard about this?
I- I'm just a basic mutt white dude, though. You know,
Yeah, I mean, like that's the same
I'm
thing
not
as
gonna
what we are. I don't
I'm
know.
not gonna co-opt your culture. You know,
I feel like everyone should get a dose of Judaism in like the cultural sense, which is to say like an NPR tote bag and some lactose intolerance. That's American Jewish culture, baby. Yeah, no, I don't know. It's definitely something that comes to mind as like a well-crafted like complaint slash rant slash joke is something I just appreciate on an inherent level. I just think like when someone does one really well, I'm like, that's good. That's nice.
well, why are all these cards 2 cost?
What's the deal
You
with
want me to
move card?
you want me to play all 6 of these in my deck? Because I will.
Yeah,
I just
that's
I just won't be happy about it.
it's cool because when you have like the Scream deck, it's got like 8 2 costs that it really wants to play. And then it just finds itself like playing a 3 cost on turn 5, and that's it because it's just out of cards because it just played all of its 2 costs. It just
Yeah,
like turns 2 cost into 2 cost into 2 cost. It's so sick.
Neo Silver Surfer. I did play a Sebastian Shaw on turn 5 earlier today and was just like, well, this is the last game I'm playing with this deck.
Yeah, like all my games with Screaming, like this is your nut draw. It's like Batroc, Sam Wilson, Craven. And then you play Scream Spider-Man, and then you just look at your hand, and it's like Miles Morales, Polaris, and Cannonball, and you're like, I guess I'm saving the Miles. So you just play Polaris, and like that's your turn 5.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, all right, I
Yeah,
wish I could solve that problem.
at least that is strong enough where I continually win with Scream.
Sure.
Surfer can't really afford to do that in most cases.
Yeah, I kind of want to talk about a card that I think might be a little underrated, and it's Luna Snow. I want to talk
Ooh.
about Luna Snow. I don't think she's like great or anything, but I feel like there's a lot fewer decks that actually suffer for having her in it than there used to be. And I wonder if that implies things about symmetric effects of that nature, where it's like this is a 3/6 that you can build to be bigger upside for you than it is for your opponent, and it just doesn't see a lot of play. What's up with that?
Well, because it does give your opponent an energy, and that's scary. Because
Yeah.
what if they build their deck badly and Luna just fixes it for them? You
Right.
know?
Right. Also, other dynamic I've noticed, a lot of this is because like scalers are strong now, but 6 drops are gone, dude. Like R.I.P. Wiccan, he was the only thing keeping Magneto afloat. But remember when we were playing Magneto and Doctor Doom in a bunch of different decks? Remember that? Now the only 6 drops that see play are Thanos, who actually costs 5, Mockingbird, who actually costs 0, and Spectrum, who is a Doctor Doom but bigger.
Yeah, and Thanos starts in your hand. You know?
Yeah.
That's a little different. I did get Magneto today. It did win my opponent the game. It
Nice.
was the card that they got off their turn 2 Iron Patriot, and
Right.
then they lost the location battle.
Right, of course, right. I should have guessed as soon as you said that. I was like, oh yeah, it was an Iron Patriot card. Right.
Yep.
Yep. Yep.
I was like, Magneto, where'd that come from? And I clicked on it. I was like, oh yeah, Iron Patriot.
Yeah, I wonder what percentage of non-Mockingbird, non-Thanos, non-Spectrum 6 drops played in this game right now come from Iron Patriot. I would wager it's like a fairly hefty chunk.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, I guess it's only weird because we have generally existed in a world where there are sixes that are worth playing, but a lot of those have gotten nerfed, and now, yeah, we just have it's the opposite of the Jeff scenario where it's like, I guess I play Jeff. he sucks, but he's all I got, you know? And
Magneto and Doom
your
were
six
that.
your sixes were pretty good. Now we could play 8 2s, and our deck is kind of cracked, and they all have 10 power. So I don't know. Let's just do that instead.
Is Zorn the last card of the season?
Yeah.
Do you have any massive important closing thoughts? Any messages to dedicate to your haters and or dad?
Uh Damn. I'm gonna go with no.
Sure.
Just don't even really want to dignify it with anything. It's like the
Sure.
cultivating faux ships sort of thing where it's just like, why even devote energy to this?
That makes sense.
In terms of the haters, keep on hating, baby. I ain't going nowhere. We're both well employed. You got job security.
It's an unbelievable sentence when I make content on the internet for a living, right? Like, we were talking about this. My girlfriend is the one who's supposed to have like the safe job. I'm not going to be like specific about the sector she works in, but it's definitely like among many sectors that are dealing with potential hardships coming via various policies enacted by the new administration. And it's like somehow I'm the one with the stable job now. What the hell is that?
Lol.
Like, how the hell did that happen? That should never happen, but thanks to all of you watching, it has. And I really appreciate that. So, as always, I've been KMBest. He's been Gerry Thompson. With a digression of 15 minutes about our dads, we talked about Marvel Snap for this entire episode. You're welcome, and we'll see you next time.
You're welcome.